The Answer. This pre-recorded program is sponsored by Tandem HR.
I see my name in shining lights, yeah, a different city every night. Oh, I swear the world better prepare for when I'm a billionaire.
It's time to get down to business on the weekend's #1 business program. Known as the King of Networking, your host, Shalom Klein, has worked with thousands of entrepreneurs and created countless jobs. So, to success. Let's get down to business.
We are all about small business jobs and entrepreneurship and business. We talk a lot about business here. You're on with Get Down to Business, and I'm your host, Shalom Klein. Remember, you can always download podcasts from Get Down to Business on my website at shalomklein.com. While you're there, don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Shalom Klein. So I've got a fantastic lineup of guests for you today. And we're going to kick off the program with a fellow who's become a friend of mine. Former Master Chief Steve Drum is a veteran of 26 years with the U.S. Navy and is a Navy SEAL. He's one of the co-founders of the Warrior Toughness Program, making the mind-body-soul connection. And I could go on and on about his accomplishments in the Navy. I will not go on and on about how the Army is better than Navy. And nobody can see Steve's reaction on his face right now. But Steve Drum, it's such a pleasure to have you on the program. Thanks for joining me.
Hey, thanks so much for having me on. It's been a little while in the making, right? I'm glad we finally got to make it happen.
Absolutely. So, Steve, you are all about leadership. Ultimately, you have used your service in the Navy, your time as a Navy SEAL, and you are demonstrating for the corporate business community leadership and performance strategies that ultimately lead to success. Let's talk a little bit about your story, Steve. How did you end up in the Navy, and what are some of the key lessons that you've learned along that journey?
Yeah, thanks. So I think fundamentally, even from a young age, I knew that I wanted to serve in the military in some capacity. And above that, I wanted to really be part of, an elite unit with a selection and assessment process to really kind of challenge myself. And, I saw that through. I had some delays along the way, but I had some people that really in my life that helped me realize my goals. And I went through a Navy SEAL training in 1995. I joined the Navy in the fall of 1992, ended up serving in Connecticut, working on fast attack submarines at a shore facility, and fell in with a really good mentor there who really made sure that I was, me and some of the other guys were well trained and well prepared before we went on to SEAL training, or BUDS as we call it.
It's an incredible story, and I believe about 27 years of experience as a Navy SEAL, leading teams, executing mission-critical performance strategies. And all of those experiences have led to some lessons. So now you are consulting with business executives that want to learn a lesson from a retired Navy SEAL Master Chief. So what are some of those lessons that you are focused on providing, and what similarities have you seen between the world of business and the world of military?
Well, I think based on my experience, and this has been validated with the opportunities I've been given to work with businesses, is that one of the things that business, and all of us in our professional and our personal lives, can really take away from is if we look at how elite military units, special operations, and the SEAL teams is what I'm most familiar with, obviously. If we look at how we prepare to execute for a mission, right? If we look at how we plan, prepare, execute, and everything that goes into that, if we take that same holistic and very comprehensive and consistent approach, and we take some of the key lessons from that, and we apply that in all the other areas in our life, we're going to really find that we have the complete answer. In many cases, sometimes we latch on to this one thing. Oh, I'm going to start meditating. I'm going to improve my goal setting. Well, and that's all well, but let's put it into a complete process. And so I've created a model based on the things that I've learned in the SEAL teams from my own experiences, from other people, great mentors that I've had. And these kind of shaped the ingredients when I was asked to create a program to make our young sailors and young sailors and officers tougher. And so the Warrior Toughness program that I was a part of, and my contribution to that, I've been able to develop a model that I help businesses really plan, prepare, and essentially enhance their execution.
So, Steve, I want to break it down into a couple of pieces because I want to take advantage of our couple of minutes now to get as much advice as possible, especially as those skills relate to business. So you, in your experience, certainly have faced challenges and adversity, challenges, perhaps failure along the way. When you have faced a mission that you struggled with at times, I know you said you had some challenges even in your training periods. What's your response? And I go back to business. What lessons in sort of failure can people sort of learn from?
Well, I think there's a couple things there, and my job is to make this succinct, right? But initially, the challenges that we face a lot of times, if you look at a Navy SEAL, the challenges, and it's all about intense combat operations. But a lot of times, fundamentally, when we face challenges, it's because we face doubt, right? Things are going well. We're excited to start off on this new journey, this new project, starting with this new organization. But then all of a sudden, somewhere between that and getting to our goal or getting to where we want to be, we fall in with the realization that it's hard, that we're facing setbacks. And so it's here where we really need to go back and ask ourselves, what are we really committed to? Who are we committed to? And what are we willing to do to make sure that we execute with discipline? Not just motivation, but discipline, the things that have to be done. And so I think that's the very first part. What are we connected to? What are we really committed to? And let that drive our behavior. In leadership, it's understanding and help validating a sense of purpose in those that work for us or with us. Because without that sense of purpose, all the rest of it is never going to be as good as it could be. We're never going to execute at the level if we don't have that strong sense of purpose. So we need to find that for ourselves. And then I'm sorry, go ahead.
So that's a perfect segue as you talk about leadership. Ultimately, most of our listeners are entrepreneurs, and we all believe as entrepreneurs that we are the perfect firefighter, that we know how to solve any problem. It gets more complicated when a business wants to scale up and you have to start hiring people. And you start to have people that are on your team. You were involved in co-developing the Warrior Toughness program, which helped to change the culture of the Navy and how it trains and prepares young sailors and officers. What lessons, as it relates to team leadership, has that taught you that you've been able to pay forward?
Well, I'd say go back to the first part of what you did. As we look at pivoting, right? If we're talking about in the context of COVID, we're talking about just transitioning to a more stable normalcy. I think it's sometimes, and as we look at growing, just in general, right? Let's look at what there's a concept that I call being brilliant on the basics, and it's essentially being able to identify and prioritize, select what you do at the most fundamental level. And so what are the basic things that I say that I can do as an organization, as a team, and how can I prove that out? And so when we get lost, when we get confused, when we wonder where to go, always tie it back to what basics do we need to focus on, and understand that, yes, if we want to be really good at something, let's break it down to the most fundamental level, and let's make sure that we are allocating resources, we're allocating time and attention to being really good at these fundamental things, and not chase every fancy new idea or trend. Be really good at what you say that you do well.
That's very helpful and surely resonates with many of our listeners. So, Steve Drum, you are a speaker and a consultant. Tell us a little bit about the organizations that you are consulting with, and what kinds of people can benefit from your message.
Everybody wants to say they're all things to all people. Essentially, where I think I bring the best value are those that find themselves executing in a finite point, when the stakes are high. If it's going to be, and many times it's sales, right? When you're trying to close that deal, you're trying to really develop, a difficult relationship. Or in general, if you're managing a team, and that can be very stressful. When you're feeling that kind of stress, when you need to prepare and really enhance your execution when the stakes are high, that's really my best audience. That's really who I'm meant to serve.
Well, I know you have a fantastic website which profiles some of the places where you've had the opportunity to speak and share your message, and you have a remarkable story. Where can our listeners learn more about you and perhaps get in touch?
Go to my website. It's stephendrum.com, and then I can be reached my email, steve@stephen drum.com.
And last question for you, Steve. Travel is certainly a distant memory for many of us, but in your 27-year career in the Navy, you've, I know, traveled in a number of places, good and bad. Favorite place to visit?
You know, I don't know favorite place. I love the West. Like Jackson Hole, Wyoming is one of my favorite places. I think one really cool spot, one trip I had was the Lofoten Islands, doing some climbing up there in the Lofoten Islands in the Arctic, by the Arctic Circle in Norway. That was a really cool experience.
Good stuff. Good memories, I hope. So StephenDrum.com, check him out online. A fantastic story, 27 years as a Navy SEAL Master Chief. Steve Drum, thanks so much for joining me on the air.
Thank you so much, Shalom. It was fun.
Absolutely. And we are the show all about small business, jobs, and entrepreneurship. Chicago, don't touch that dial. We'll be right back and Get Down to Business in just a moment.